Hi, this is Matthew Robertson, and in this video, we are going to discuss the agile framework known as Kanban. The inspiration for Kanban comes from the Toyota production system, which is a lean manufacturing methodology. In the 1940s, Toyota was looking to reduce manufacturing costs by eliminating waste in their inventory management system. Their problem was that having excess materials on hand did not translate into more products being shipped. Storing this inventory required space, inventory systems, staff to manage it, and a larger upfront cost to purchase these materials. To solve this problem, Toyota implemented a just-in-time inventory solution, where materials were delivered to the location they were consumed just before they were needed. To communicate information about inventory through the supply chain, employees would record what was needed on cards known as Kanban. In 2010, David Anderson published the book Kanban. Anderson developed what he called the drum buffer rope method after years of trying to implement agile methods in an enterprise where employee stress and work-life balance were becoming problems. This would eventually evolve into Kanban. In his book, Anderson lays out the principles and policies required for a functional Kanban system. Kanban has just 3 defining principles. The first is, start with what you know. It doesn't take any preparation to begin following the Kanban framework. You can begin just by doing what you're doing right now. Kanban has built-in flexibility by not laying out requirements for processes or workflows. This makes it adaptable to almost any development environment. Second, pursue incremental and evolutionary change. This is for any of the processes or workflows that are part of your pipeline. Requirements, staff, and technologies change over time, and the processes that connect these pieces will become inefficient if it does not evolve with them. Third, and this goes along with starting with what you know, respect the current process, roles, responsibilities, and titles. These things were put there for a reason. Kanban is meant to sit on top of the current process and evolve it as needed. Kanban can be defined by 5 properties. The last one here, identify improvement opportunities, is important in keeping with the defining principles. All of the preceding properties are there to help to make those opportunities more obvious. The graph in the bottom left is a cumulative flow diagram. While we don't cover data analysis in this video, this is the type of data that can be used to uncover improvement opportunities. In his book, Anderson talks about his recipe for success, in which he lays out a series of steps that generally build on one another. The first being, focus on quality. Quality here is defined as being free of errors or bugs. This step is first because it is one of the simplest to fix and is a technical problem. Some of the easiest ways to improve quality is by implementing processes such as testing, code reviews, design patterns, and reducing the amount of design work happening at any one time. The time and trust that is lost by delivering buggy code can be summed up by this quote from Anderson. The next step is to reduce work in progress. This is probably the most fundamental process in Kanban. Anderson states that there is a causal relationship between the amount of work that is in progress and the average lead time, which is the amount of time it takes for a work item to go from in progress to completed. This relationship is known as Little's Law and comes from queue theory. Basically, it shows that putting more items into the in-progress queue doesn't make the work delivery rate any faster, but in practice, causes the work being done to lose efficiency and causes more errors. This is likely due to the developer having to divide their attention among work items and losing productivity by going back and forth between tasks. Furthermore, limiting the number of items in a workflow has the positive effect of freeing up developers who are always busy due to work being pushed at them. This allows you to see where true bottlenecks occur. If there is reduced work but a certain process is holding up work further down the line or is always overburdened, then you have just identified an opportunity for incremental improvement. Also, by reducing the amount of work allowed to be in progress, you are creating an environment where developers are not picking up tasks and getting them near completion before moving on to the next task. This encourages a culture of done, where the tasks are moved from beginning to end without the starting and stopping. Which leads to our next step, Deliver often. Short lead times create more frequent deliveries, which in turn means more communication with the customer. This builds trust between the customer and the development team. The next step is balance demand. Discussions about taking new work can only happen if previous work has been completed. This creates a pull methodology, where the developer will reach out to accept new tasks as they complete previous work. Unlike pushing tasks through the process where they can pile up on a developer's queue before they are ready, balancing demand also removes work tasks that are just sitting idle, exposing where true bottlenecks can occur. Balancing the demand creates space, giving developers time to focus on things like cleaning up their environment and improving their tools and their skills, thereby improving the whole team. Next, we have prioritize. The goal here is to increase business value through prioritization. The customers are the ones who determine priority. By building trust between the stakeholders and developers, management can begin to work with the stakeholders to maximize the value delivered. Priority is pointless unless you can offer a stable and predictable delivery schedule, so it is best to focus on this after getting consistency in the previous steps. Finally, target sources of variability. Variability reduces predictability, which then compromises priorities. By the time you have reached this point in the recipe, sources of variability are likely to require organizational changes to fix. Thus, this should only be attempted once the organization is more mature. Kanban boards are one of the primary tools used in the framework to visualize the workflow. The idea is to openly communicate information about the workflow process and individual tasks. The board must be accessible to all members of the team, and all members should be capable of pulling cards and moving them through the workflow. Physical boards are normally stored in a team's common area, but as more and more development teams are working from remote locations, boards have shifted to the virtual realm. Virtual boards do offer more features, such as task history and the ability to quickly adjust the columns of the board. Kanban boards can be as simple as the one seen here, or contain many specialized areas where specific processes can take place. Kanban boards only need 3 phases: a place to hold a to-do list, a place to hold work in progress, and a place to put completed tasks. Here is a more complex Kanban board. Here we can see sections for tasks on hold, as well as a place for tasks that require answers. The tasks on this board even have images of graphs and charts attached to help pass along information. This is a Kanban board, but does it implement the framework Kanban? Please pause the video and see if you can determine if this represents Kanban the framework. I will give you 5 seconds. So, what do you think? No, this Kanban board does not represent Kanban the framework. Could you see what was missing? There are no limits for work in progress. Here is a Kanban board that does display the properties of the Kanban framework. Keeping the properties of the framework in mind, we would expect to see 5 components in a Kanban board. First up is visual signals. These are cards, sticky notes, or anything else you can use to stick to a board. These are used to communicate the requirements of the task. This could be a user story, or a checklist, or possibly just a simple outcome. Next, we expect to see columns. Each column represents a process in the workflow. Columns can be simple or complex. Here we can see that they have a column for backlog, a prioritized to-do list, and so on. Work in progress limits. These are the maximum number of visual signals allowed for each column. When a column is maxed out, it signals to the team to focus on that process to move things along. If that column is consistently having issues with being overburdened, then it is also exposed an area for improvement. Here we can see that the code review column has been highlighted because it is over its limit. This is an automated feature of this Kanban board. For physical boards, a process will need to be put in place for when this happens. A commitment point. This is when an item is moved from the backlog or to-do column to the in progress columns. This is the point at which the team is committed to doing the work. The delivery point. This is the point at which the item is moved from the in progress columns to the completed columns. The time between the commitment point and the delivery point is the lead time. Here is a comparison of Kanban and Scrum. This highlights some of the differences between the two popular frameworks, but you don't have to choose just one. Hybrid frameworks do exist, such as Scrumban, or you can, and probably should, select the processes that work for your particular development environment. This concludes my presentation on Kanban. Thank you for listening.